the Cold Corner Podcast.
Okay, so we move ourselves on to Division 6 and the other double relegated side, Acton Reynolds first 11. Then we've got our two relegated sides from Division 5. We've got Allscott Heath second 11 and Knockin second 11. Then our sides have stayed in the division this year. Ludlow third 11, Lilleshall second 11, Cund second 11, Willie third 11, Montgomery second 11, and Column second 11. We've got our two promoted sides, our Welshpool second 11 and Harcourt first 11, and we've got our new Saturday side up from Sunday Cricket, Roxeter second 11. So, thoughts on this division, Slats?
Well, firstly, I'm just really pleased to be playing for Willie third 11. I didn't know we got enough players to have three.
Oh, did I say third 11s? Very sorry. Willie second 11. How could I mistake?
Again, it's going to be a tough division. These divisions are all tight, but I think Allscott Heath will be an unknown quantity. They're either going to bounce back strong, or if by all accounts it's a third team with a few second teamers doing that, I think they might have a difficult season. I don't know is the honest answer. Looking at it though, I think Acton Reynolds will be strong. They've got some very good players. Ian Fox, Amy Hudson, top quality players who played at a much higher level. So I think they'll be interesting. Plus, depending on what they've got from Sentinel as well, in terms of a few players from there and how they've recruited. So I think they'll be strong. Cund will be very strong. They've recruited very strongly in their first team, and that's only going to flow down. Plus, they've also recruited a few for their second team as well. So a real competition for places at Cund. So I think they'll be definitely up there. Lilleshall again with the likes of Rich Barge, getting runs for fun. I think they'll be a tough side again. Depends how they've recruited. Or if anybody moves up there, Robbie Bagshaw as well, fantastic player on his day, bats and bowls, and of course Willie have recruited, strengthened, and we've now got a new captain and a new vice captain. So must have a fantastic chance because the old captain was rubbish. And basically, the two lads that have come down from the first team, I'm going to say it for you buggers do. Basically, the first. So we've got a couple of lads who've come down from the first team to play second team cricket and captain and vice captain. And one is a very, very good bowler, and the other one's the captain. And again, we don't know. They'll get that. I'll get hammered, but they'll get that. There are some teams, Roxeter seconds, for example, playing on Sundays. I have no idea whether they're going to be massively strong or not. But Roxeter are a club on the up. So, their first team is getting better and better and moving up the division. So, who knows? Harcourt and Welshpool both are up to Division 7. Really, really tight last year. Harcourt, for me, is where it all started many, 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 many years ago. But you just don't know. They've got a couple of lads from the RAF who really strengthened last year. Colin will be strong. They're a club that are recruiting. They're a club on the move. So, yeah, it's going to be interesting. I've got a top 5 for you, but I'll leave that till later on after you spoke to the other guy.
Yeah, so something that you mentioned, which I'll be really interested to see this season in Division 6, is Roxeter second 11, as you mentioned, because I know, speaking from Albury's perspective, getting players who play on a Sunday consistently to come and play on a Saturday is a struggle, because playing on a Sunday becomes quite a habit, and also becomes quite convenient because you plan your Saturdays, you do that, and then you play cricket on your Sunday. So getting them to play on a Saturday must be tough, but obviously they must have spoken to the people. I guess the other thing is if you can't play on a Saturday, and then you can always play on a Sunday, or maybe sometimes, I'm not sure whether they'd have been able to have played on a Saturday for the ones and then played on the Sunday for the twos as well, whereas that's not going to be available this year. If that was something that was available last year. Cund twos for me as well. Cund twos will be interesting. They're ones have strengthened, and I know that Kund have struggled a bit like Albury for availability. So seeing how they can do, because obviously, if the players that they've got, Troy, if he's going to be turning out in the twos, and Foul Waters, you've got really good players there, and they've made good signings in their ones. Zim, Alex AJ was playing obviously last season, but they've kind of brought him out again. Ed Davis and all that. It's going to make space for players to come from that first 11 into the twos. Whether they decide to stay or not was another thing entirely. But yeah, it should in theory make them strong. And Ludlow, after their season of title victory, maybe it's invigorated everyone in the club and everyone's feeling a bit better to push forwards. Allscott Heath, again, possibly another club with an axe to grind and want to prove that they should get promoted, Ian.
Yeah, I couldn't disagree. I think Ludlow are going to be strong. I spoke to them last week, and although they haven't signed any players on, there's a lot of availability in the club. They've got a lot of good young players in the thirds. Ollie Bolton's in his second year of captaincy, and he did a very good job last year marshalling the troops. Rory Bunting wants to play threes again, so I think they've always got a chance in that division, and I've got them very high up in my 5. Kund, I agree. Again, they've strengthened very well, so that's looking good. Column are an interesting bunch because obviously Craig left us a couple of years ago, and they've got Chris Scott's going to be their new second team captain. They're expecting him to get a lot of runs in Division 6, so they're thinking of big things from him. And what they're trying to do is they've recruited a few players. They're going to spread talent through the teams, so as both teams are hopefully stronger. Obviously, Ian and Bryn Simmons in the ones. Massey is talking about starting in the twos. Whether he's telling me the truth or not, we shall see on Saturday, shan't we? But I think Column are going to be quite strong. Montgomery are always a very difficult side to beat. They always play very well. Lilleshall always seem to come third or fourth or fifth, just do enough to not quite get promoted. They're always such a strong side when we played Lilleshall twos. I don't know how they don't go up. I really don't. But that looks like a very, very tight division to me. And I'm disappointed we're not still in it, but it's going to be worth a watch.
Yeah, Graham, one of your former clubs in Division 6 with Acton Reynolds. How do you think that they'll get on this year?
My heart hopes that they do really well. And always when you, Slats mentioned Foxy and 80 Hudson, you have those two guys in any team. And Foxy on his day could be playing at any level in the Shropshire Cricket League. He's just got an eye for a ball and can hit it a mile. Let's hope my heart overrules my head, yeah? And they do extremely well. So I've played in Division 6 when I was at Acton Reynolds, and I've played against a lot of these teams and blokes like Baggy. I've played against him quite a few times, and again, a guy can just take a game away from you. But with Column, they're an incredibly competitive club, not just the team, they're an incredibly competitive and aggressive club. And the last thing they're going to want to do is for their first to get too many divisions away from their seconds. They want to be a high flying club. So I can see that, as Ian said, they will spread the talent out throughout the club. And I think that Column seconds are going to be incredibly strong this year. I mean, Craig Massey, I feel sorry for who has to play against Craig Massey because he does not shut up. So
fantastic. Okay, so going around, and we'll start with Slats. What's your top 5 in Division 6, guys?
Acton Reynolds, Column, Kund, Lilleshall, and Willie in the top 5 in no particular order. The reason I've left Ludlow out of that top 5, yeah, Ollie Bolt has done a fantastic job. I had a good chat with Ollie at the captain's meeting last week. Rory is going to be in the seconds.
Okay, then.
And that's going to make a huge difference.
Ian?
I'm going Kund, Ludlow, Allscott, Column, Lilleshall.
Fantastic. Graham, final one, the big decision.
I've got Column first, Lilleshall second. I've actually got Knockin and Kinley third. And then Roxeter fourth. And between Willie and Kund for fifth.
Some interesting top 5s there, guys. So, on those, we'll move ourselves on to our next division, and Division 4. Okay, so Division 4 in 2023, we've got our three relegated sides, sorry. Newport second 11, Shifnal third 11, and Harper's first 11. Our sides that have stayed in Division 4, we've got Condover first 11, Frankton second 11, Wheaton Aston first 11, Bridgenorth third 11, Gillsfield first 11, Hodnett first 11, Bishop's Castle first 11, and our 2 promoted sides from Division 5, Whitchurch second 11 and Shrewsbury thirds. So, who better to start off with here but with Ollie Griffiths. Ollie.
Yeah, so for me, first and foremost, you can't. I don't think we can look too far past Whitchurch, second 11. I know they've only come up this year, but they were incredibly strong. I did see the back end of a couple of games last year, being the local, being that they were then being obviously the local team to us, and they're very good. With Eddie Lewis at the top of the order, they've got a player there who can score a lot of runs for them. I know they've had the tag of not travelling very well in the past, but I think they shook that off last year. And they obviously did travel very well, and I think they broke the 400 point barrier last year. So I have heard that they've lost Owen Sylvester from the top of the order. It was a good young opening bat there for Whitchurch, and I think he's gone to Nantwich. But despite that, there's a lot of good young players at Whitchurch, and aided by some of the more senior players, they should have a good season there. Teams coming down for me. So Shifnal, I think, as a club, they're a big club and they've strengthened at the top, so that should push down. So I think they'll have a good season. Newport, I don't know a lot about Newport, other than the first team are obviously at a high standard, and they'll want to get their second team, as all these sort of big clubs that have got second teams, third teams down the divisions, they all want to get their lower teams back closer to their top teams, so it's not so much of a jump for those players that are sort of floating between the first and the seconds. And I think it's really important for them as clubs that they do manage to get those teams back close. There's the likes of Condover. Condover seem to finish third every year. They're really good side. They've got a great group of players there. Some really good players who score a lot of runs and take a lot of wickets every year. So I think they'll have another good season, aided by the fact that Condover is probably the driest spot in Shropshire. I think there was a game last year where it was the only game that was played pretty much in the whole of Shropshire. So they should definitely get started on time, and if they don't, it's because Graham hasn't found a roller.
Pressure, mate.
And Wheaton Aston, again, they came down from Division 3 a couple of years ago, having gone up 2 or 3 years before that. So they're a good side with the likes of Nathan Whittingham and a few of the other guys there. They're seasoned performers and do perform every year. I do worry about a couple of teams in this division. I've heard that Hodnet have lost a few players. I think Harry Fiaz has gone to one of the Telford sides, and Owais Abdul has moved to.
That's a huge loss, Harry. He's a good bowler.
I think. Go on, Slats. You got something to say there?
He's gone to Madeley, mate.
Madeley.
There was talk of him going to Broseley, but had a chat with a certain committee member on
Thursday.
And
he's
gone. Yeah. He's gone to Madeley.
So losing Harry, and like I was going to say, Owais Abdul has moved to London, and they're saying he was going to come back and play a couple of times a month, but it's a big ask for someone to travel back on a regular basis, and even losing him for half a month, it's a big loss to a small village club like ourselves that rely on people turning up week in week out. I think they've also lost Matt Pooler. I'm not sure where he's gone, but I may be wrong on that one, but I think I heard that he might have gone as well. So I do worry for the likes of Hodnet, and again, it's another one of these small clubs that really can't afford to lose players. Every player that a little club loses is someone else that you've got to find or got to turn out, and it just becomes so difficult for these small clubs. So
yeah, I think another side. Oh, sorry, yeah, go for it.
I'm gonna say I wish them all the best, and I really do hope. Again, as another local North Shropshire side, that they do have a good season. But on paper, it's looking a little bit difficult for them, having lost those losses.
Yeah, I mean, another side that I'm looking at that it'll be interesting to see what happens is Harper's relegated from Division 3 last season, but widely publicised, lost a lot of their players to Priors Lee, so it'll be interesting to see how that goes about and whether they've recruited and how things move forward. Their Shifnal, as you mentioned, their ones have recruited well, so should do better. And yeah, Whitchurch and Shrewsbury, it's been shown that sides who come up from Division 5 tend to do well in Division 4, and Shrewsbury 2s, I went to see them the other day and they looked very strong. So that's only going to improve the third 11, and the 3s for Shrewsbury last season were fantastic. Again, it comes down to availability and how many times a week they can get their best team out, and also kind of how contracted players can play in Div 1 and and pros in Div 2, except in their second team, in the Prem. Guilsfield will be an interesting one for me, and also Bridgenorth 3s. Their first 11 lost a lot of players. They've obviously brought in a few, but it'll be interesting to see how they get along. Slats, what are your thoughts on Division 4 this year?
Echo the boys, really. I think it's going to be tough for a couple of sides. For me, I think the standout team this year will be Condover, perennial bridesmaids. And I think they've got some tough competition, but with the likes of Robbie Barker, played against his dad a lot, tough as nails. I remember Robbie as a young lad playing against us. He's developed a really good cricketer. Charlie Rogers, for wanting to play cow corner bingo. Charlie Rogers will be strong again. I'm really interested in some of these teams. Harper's you talked about there. They're going to play at Tiverton, I understand, which has been good to get Tiverton's ground back in use. And they might draw more players, who knows, from local area, etc. You never know as far as that's concerned. So I'm interested how they get on. Shrewsbury thirds, I'm scratching my head and I'm a bit aghast to understand that they're playing at their home games at St George's on St George's second pitch.
Well, I guess that's because they would normally play at isn't it up by the Column? That's
no. Well, they used to play at the Column, and last year they played at Roxeter.
Okay, yeah. Then Roxeter now playing on a Saturday.
And then they were going to play at I understand this year, and then obviously with full skirt 3s folding, I don't, and the work going on at the new pavilion at Allscourt, I don't think they're going to use that second pitch there. So weirdly, Shrewsbury Thirds will play their home games in Telford, which just baffles me. And that could have an impact on their availability. It might not, but I don't know. Having to travel so far from the town to play your home games is a bit strange. So that could impact on them. But listen, I've got a top five if you're interested to hear who I think will be top five in that division this year. Again, in no particular order. But I still think Condover will be up there. So Condover, Whitchurch second, yeah, absolutely. They've got them going there, the second team. They're really going to push again. I think they'll be strong again. I've got Shrewsbury third in that top five, along with Newport and Shifnal. As the boys have said, I think teams that have come down, I think they're going to try and bounce back up straight away. So interesting. And again, I worry for Hodnet. I worry for Bishop's captain. On their day, a very good side, but again, it's a bit of an aging team, and they folded their second a few years ago, and I don't know if they've got those youngsters coming through. I hope they have. It's a fantastic place to play cricket. It really is. But I do worry.
Yeah. So, Graham, you've Condover looking strong this year potentially, and with one of the promising young prospects in the whole of Shropshire in Rowan, and with, as Slats has mentioned, with Charlie Rogers, Robbie Barker, I know that Zoe Griffiths has been working on her footwork in the off season as well. It's your side's just going to be getting better and better.
I think so. Robbie's now taken over as captain from Charlie. Charlie had to take a step back because he is the back. He's only a young fella. He's the backbone of the club. He does the junior coaching. He does groundwork. He does everything. And Robbie's now deserved his chance. His brother Jordan as well hits a ball an absolute mile. But as you said, Rowan Creswell, I saw him on last Saturday. He's taller. He's filled out a little bit, and he's just a phenomenal bowler. He takes proper wickets, and yeah, there's a few other. Lucas Ridgway is a guy a young fella of the same age as Rowan. He played in the seconds. He was the open bowler in the seconds last year, and he is swift. He will take a lot of wickets. From all what I've heard, his accuracy is now bang on. That was his downfall a little bit last year. He could go a bit wayward, but apparently he's got his accuracy back. And as I say, he's like the wind. So I think Condover's going to do really well. Wheaton Aston always will, depending on who's available. Whitchurch, I think, are going to be a tough team as well. Frankton, no one's mentioned them. They could always be strong. So I think that looks like a really tough division. It's like the bridging division between the senior players down into the lower division. So anything could happen.
Okay, Ollie, what's your predictions for top five in Division 4 for 2023?
Yeah, much the same as what's been said already. Really, my top five will be Whitchurch, Condover, Newport, Shifnal, and I've forgotten how many I've said. I think that's four. And probably maybe someone like Wheaton Aston. They're always there or thereabouts. So I'd probably go with them as my top half of that division.
Yeah, I think it's
and again, Shrewsbury could be in there as well. So I think those are the top six for me, really.
Yeah, it's going to be a really interesting division in Division 4, and I definitely think there's going to be a top six who may pull away from the rest. From my outside looking in, not necessarily played in that division, but played against a few of the sides before, and knowing some of the players and the standard of player who are playing for certain sides, and then kind of looking at how other sides have played against them and just trying to work it out that way. So yeah, I think it's going to be interesting there. So let's move ourselves on to our final division and Division 8. So we move ourselves on to Division 8. And in Division 8, we've got our third double relegated side, Chirk Second 11, who came down from Division 6. 3 relegated sides from Division 7, Beacon Third 11, Kai Glass Second 11, and Quayside First 11. And then 2 new Saturday sides, Guilsfield Second 11 and Sentinel Third 11. So these teams will play each other 4 times. So our thoughts on Division 8 this season, and we'll start with Ian.
Well, I think the most difficult thing about this division is going to be motivation. Can they be motivated enough to play each other 4 times? But apart from that, I think they're quite good sides. I think Chirk are disappointed to be relegated, double relegation, so they're going to be looking to be on the up. Hey Glass, I'm a little bit worried about. Matt Weddercop has left them. He's gone to play for Frankton, and I think their firsts are going to struggle, and I think their twos are probably going to struggle as well. In that division, Beacon, I think, will want to probably bounce straight back up. And then I think Guilsfield and Sentinel are both, I think they're going to be quite strong teams for that division, to be honest with you. A lot of the Sentinel players played last year on loan for Acton Reynolds. They obviously think they can put their own third 11 out on a Saturday. So I'm expecting Guilsfield and Sentinel to both be quite strong in that division. But like I say, I think motivation to try and keep playing the same 4 teams, playing every team 4 times is going to be tricky.
Yeah, we played Grasshoppers. We played a friendly against like a Sentinel Third 11-ish side with some players who, like the younger players who play for their twos, and yeah, there's a hell of a lot of talent there and some really good players. So I think, yeah, I agree with you there, Ian. I think they're going to do really well, and they've got a good coaching team over at Sentinel. So, and you know, when you're surrounded by the players of the talent of the first and twos, you know, you're gonna pick up things, and I would say that they're gonna do really well. Again, Beacon, I can see them doing well. Chirk will be interesting to see what happens. I think they've been a victim of their own success in that they've produced very good players who have then moved up into their first 11. But again, I'm not quite sure what Chirk ones are doing. But yeah, if they, you know, you never know. Yeah, I'm not 100% sure with them, because they could be a side that could quite easily win Division 8, I think, but they could also be a side that finishes middle of the road.
And I think the other thing with Chirk is that it'll be interesting to see how they run it as a club, because their firsts are very high and their seconds are very low. You know, they can't really expect people to be playing in the seconds and then be in the ones. So it will be very interesting to see as a club how they go about this season.
Yeah, it's an interesting league as well, with it being kind of like a Borders and Shrewsbury Central side as well. So it's not, you'll be getting quite used to the same old roads and the same pubs after a game here in this division. And obviously Quayside and Beacon, you can't get a more local derby than those two. But yeah, so guys, anyone else's thoughts on Division 8 this season?
I know I'm not gonna try and pick a top 5 out of a 6-team division, because I'd hate to upset one team.
We'll go top 3 for Division 8, but we'll carry on with your thoughts first.
Yeah, I think Sentinel are going to be way too strong for this division. You know, Guilsfield, you know, they again should be quite good. I'd love to see my mates from Quayside do well. They're a great bunch of blokes, and I always have a good laugh when I play against them. Jamie White he's been playing for him for years and years, and he's still a quality bowler and takes wickets every year. So it's I just hope that it works. But as you say, when you've got Quayside and Beacon playing each other 4 times on the same ground, and I hope it works. Something had to be done, and I think this is probably the best compromise that the league could have come up with. So hopefully there'll be more teams next year that can pad it out some more.
Slaps?
Yeah, for me, it's.
Oh, Ian, Ollie, sorry. Go, Ollie.
I was going to say, for me, it's again, it's obviously like Graham's just said, it's a really difficult division, and there's very little the league could do around, getting, it's difficult. 6 teams, the amount of teams there are on Saturday doesn't fit well into the number of divisions that ideally it would have been liked. And they've tried big divisions before with playing some teams once, some teams twice, and that didn't really work. So they've gone down this route. It'll be interesting to see. At least they are playing each team 4 times, but they're playing those 2 fixtures home and away back to back on consecutive weekends. So at least it's not like, in 3 weeks' time we've got we've got Chirk, and in 3 weeks after that we've got Chirk again, and then 3 weeks after that. So at least they're playing them at the start of the season, for example, and they're not playing them again until the second half of the season. So there is that, and hopefully that should, it's quite nice sometimes. We've had it where the fixtures have fallen in a bizarre way, or games being rearranged, and we had it with Fens Bank one year where we played them. I think we played them on 2 consecutive days. I think we played them on the Saturday and the Sunday, because it was that season where we were allowed to rearrange one game from the start of the year, and it was actually a bit of fun. Well, we'll see it tomorrow or whatever. And we had
to just leave your bag in the dressing
shed. Yeah. Well, it was at 2 different grounds, but
yeah.
It was a bit of fun, and it was sort of renewing rivalries in a relatively short space of time, and you had a bit of people tend to remember a bit more about each other's game because you'd only played them relatively recently. So it should be a bit interesting in that respect, and that'd be great. For me, it's going to be interesting to see how Guilsfield go with their new second team. It's a great success story for again a very rural club. So it's fantastic to see them setting up a second team. They're a really well run club and a great bunch of guys. And I'm sad that we're not playing them again this year, because we had 2 really good games last year, and good luck to them. I don't know a lot about the other teams in that division, and my apologies for that. But as people have discussed, I think Sentinel, having had the strength to support Acton Randall last year, and now put in a 3rd team of their own, obviously playing at Acton Reynolds, I think it's fantastic. And I think, like we said, I think they're going to be quite strong, and they should hopefully bounce back in or get into Division 7 next year. So it's good to see.
Okay, so final word on Division 8, Ian Slater.
Yeah, echo what the guys have said. Really, I can't see much past Sentinel thirds. I think they'll win it and probably run away with it. Realistically, as you say, it's difficult when you're playing sides 4 times a season. I think Beacon thirds will finish in the top 2, so they'll finish second, basically. And I think Guilsfield seconds will be the interesting package. Depends how they've recruited. Chirk, played them last year in Division 6, and I was amazed because it's like 2 different clubs in their first and their seconds. A really good bunch of guys and girls at Chirk seconds, but it's a massive gulf for their first and seconds. And I don't know how that's going to happen. Kai Glass, obviously, they've lost a couple of players as well. And Quayside, I played a game at Beacon and watched them play with 8 or 9 players against a side. So again, it's all about bums on seats and bodies on the field, isn't it? But I think it's going to be an interesting division. But I can't see past Sentinel.
Okay, so we'll just quickly whip through confirming our top 3s in Division 8, please, and we'll start with Graham.
Sentinel, Gillsfield, and Beacon.
Ollie?
No particular order.
Yeah, Sentinel, Beacon, and it could be any of the other. It could be any of the other four, but I only go for Gillsfield.
Ian?
I've got Gillsfield, Beacon, and Sentinel in no particular order.
Slats?
Yeah, I'm going to take your backside off the fence. I'm going to tell you Sentinel will win it. With runners up Beacon, and Gillsfield will be in the third spot.
Amazing. Right. So we'll move ourselves on to our penultimate section, because I want to ask you guys some quick fire questions. Right. So we move on to our penultimate section, and I'm just going to ask the guys around the table of Zoom, as we are, some quick fire questions in predictions for the season ahead. So, guys, the first question I'm going to ask you is, who is going to be the biggest surprise in the Shropshire League from Division 4 to Division 8 this season? Who's going to surprise us the most? And it can be either in a good way or a bad way, but you don't have to mention which it will be. So which side is going to be the biggest surprise this season in a good or bad way? And you don't need to mention whether it is good or bad. And for this one, we'll start with Slats.
Thanks very much. Biggest surprise club this year, probably going to be, he said, clutching at straws. I'm going to say Prisley.
Interesting. Graham.
Acton Reynolds.
Good choice. Ian.
Albury Twos.
Oh, that's a very good shout, because I don't know whether you mean good or bad either. Ollie.
Calverhall.
Interesting. Okay, so next question. Who is your young player to look out for in 2023? And we'll start with Graham. This might be a bit of an obvious one for you here, Graham.
Yeah, Rowan Creswell. He's, as I said, he's grown another foot. He's filled out across the shoulders, and he was phenomenal last year. So keep an eye on him.
Ian?
I'm going to say feisty Hamish Jardine from Ludlow. I think he ruffles a few feathers. I like the way he plays cricket.
Ollie?
Sadly, a player that we've lost, but Will Lewis, now at Whitchurch.
And then Slats?
Quarter third, Charlie Weldon. Brother's a big fast bowler. He's going to be on his way. I think he's going to grow over the winter.
Okay, then in the similar kind of vein, who is going to be your standout player across the divisions this season? And we'll start with Ollie.
Charlie Rogers.
Graham?
It would be hard to go past Charlie. He does it every year on year. Yeah, I think Ian Fox down in Division 6 would be a good shout. I think he'll score a lot of runs. So, yeah, anyone and all of them.
Ian?
Chris Scott, column 2's new captain.
Slats?
Difficult. Very, very difficult. But I'm going to say Mark Blaster Brown, Much Wenlock.
Good choices. Right, final one. If you were going to put your mortgage on one thing in the Shropshire League this season, what is your biggest banker? What is definitely going to happen this season? And we'll start off with the one person who's probably not the gambling man. I will start with Ollie.
We're going to talk about availability issues.
I can't go far wrong there. Availability will be a talking point. Okay, Ian.
Corvdale shower still isn't working.
Did you say Cordelia or a shower?
Slats.
Sorry, you're breaking up, mate. Sorry.
Slats.
After last year, we're going to spend more time talking about the bloody weather.
It's a good shout. And Graham?
I think it's nailed on that Slats will get in an argument with at least one person per game.
What, Slats? No.
One person on this podcast.
Okay. So that rounds it up, and we move ourselves on to our final section. Okay, so thank you once again, everyone, for listening in and supporting the podcast. As always, please make sure you follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. We've got lots of exciting things coming up with the podcast this year. We are also now on YouTube, which you can get us at Cow Corner Podcast, where we will be putting up all of our podcasts in video form, as well as little snippets, so you'll be able to see our wonderful faces and our lovely clobber, which has been nicely sorted out by Hawk this year. It is very nicely modelled by everyone, obviously apart from our guest Graham. But yeah, it's going to be a really big year for the podcast, and we want you guys to be involved. So please make sure that you send us, if you want to get involved, send us an email to cowcornerpodcast@gmail.com. You can also send us videos, any video clips or any points. If you want your voice to be heard, send us a voice note as well as your emails, and we will get your voice heard on the podcast, because that will make things even more interesting. Anyway, as always, thank you very much, and I'm looking forward to, well, actually, by the time this comes out, the big announcement will be there, so we won't tease it too much, but we'll definitely talk about it in the next episode. But we've got some exciting things planned and coming forward. So it brings me to the point where I say once again, thank you very much to our special guest, who's come on twice for the same episode. That's definitely a first for us, Graham.
Thank you very much, gents. I've enjoyed it.
And thank you very much, Ollie.
Thanks, James. And just want to say thank you again to the Alb, who put us up and looked after us the first time round.
You've taken the words out of my mouth. And if you are in Shrewsbury, definitely go there. The food was absolutely fantastic.
And we will be back. We'll be recording there again.
Yeah, we will, and we'll make sure we'll get a nice smorgasbord so you can see it on our YouTube version for those of you like watching grown men eat food. Ian, it's been great to have you back, even though it's technically like you've never been away.
Technically, like I've never been away, and it's lovely to have Gray on as well. It's been a pleasure. Thank you very much indeed.
And thank you very much, as always, Slats. Looking resplendent in full HD.
Thank you, guys. Thoroughly enjoyed it. One of the talking points for this year, non-striking batsmen, stay home, guys. The man cat is out there. It's going to cause chaos.
It's going to be interesting. And if the games that I've seen so far this season, umpiring is, I do feel for them. It's not an easy game. Anyway, thank you very much, guys. Hopefully you've enjoyed it. Please feel free to get in contact with us. We want you guys to be involved. Go well, everyone, this season. And hopefully we'll have lots of positive podcasts talking about how great everyone's done. And get going. And hopefully your grounds get dry. And let's all pray for some sunshine.
Cheers.
Thank you.
Have a good one.
Until the next time, guys. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.